Clara was young, but she did not just save money. She guarded it like her life depended on it, because in truth, it did. For 3 years, she worked as a sales girl in a small, crowded shop where customers could insult you and still expect a discount as compensation. She stood for hours, smiling when she was tired, greeting people who never greeted back, and pretending not to hear the whispers about her worn-out shoes. Every evening, she would return home, remove her slippers quietly, and drop her earnings into a small metal saving tin hidden under her bed. While other girls her age were busy arguing about relationships and posting filtered pictures online, she was busy planning her escape from struggle with every penny she earned. The day her exam result came out, she was overwhelmed with joy. Her score of 299 was beyond her expectations. She checked it again, then again, just to be sure the system had not made a mistake out of pity. Her hands trembled as she printed it, and before she knew it, she was already running home, her heart beating faster than her legs could carry her. She burst into the house, waving the paper like a winning ticket. Her mother, Margaret, collected it, screamed with excitement, and suddenly turned into the loudest public relations officer in the neighborhood. Before evening, people 3 streets away already knew that Margaret's daughter was a genius. That day, Clara allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, life was finally ready to behave. For the first time in years, their small house felt full, not with money, but with pride. Her mother cooked food as if a wedding was taking place, calling neighbors to come and see what God has done, as though God had personally sat Clara down to write the exam. Clara watched her mother move around with excitement, smiling in a way she had not seen in a long time. It felt good. It felt like all those long days at the shop had finally meant something. For once, she was not just surviving, she was becoming something. But life has a strange habit of clapping for you with one hand, while the other hand is already preparing a slap. A few weeks later, Clara noticed something small but unsettling. Her saving tin felt lighter. At first, she told herself she was imagining things. After all, this was her house, not a public market where things disappear like magic. But one night, when she finally opened the tin to count her money properly, her heart dropped into her stomach. It was empty, completely empty. Not even a naira note remained, as if someone had carefully wiped away her future and left the container behind as evidence of cruelty. Before we continue, please like and subscribe so that you'll be notified whenever I upload another interesting story. I'd also love to give a big shout out to all my subscribers and viewers. Thank you for supporting this channel. And don't forget to tell me in the comments where you are watching from. Now get a chilled drink and your favorite snack, then join me for this interesting story. Clara did not cry immediately. Sometimes, shock behaves like a stubborn guest. It sits quietly before causing chaos. She carried the empty tin to her mother, her hands shaking, her voice barely steady. "Mom, where is my money?" she asked, hoping, desperately, that there was a reasonable explanation. Maybe her mother had kept it somewhere safe. Maybe there was a plan. Maybe this was one of those moments where adults do something confusing but eventually makes sense. Her mother did not even look guilty. That was the first slap. The second slap came from her words. She waved her hand dismissively and said, "You are overreacting. I used it for something important." Important? Clara felt like laughing, but it came out like pain. It did not take long for the truth to crawl out like an uninvited guest. Her mother had given the money to her boyfriend, a man who visited only when he needed something and disappeared when responsibility knocked on the door. Clara stared at her mother, searching her face for regret, for shame, for anything human, but her mother stood there, acting like someone who had simply borrowed salt from a neighbor. That night, Clara sat on her bed, holding her father's photograph tightly. Her father had been many things, but careless was not one of them. He used to say, "The world will test you, but don't let it turn you into something you are not." She wondered what he would say now, seeing how easily her future had been traded for temporary affection. The woman who once sang to her during thunderstorms now stood in the same house, acting like her daughter's pain was an inconvenience. By morning, she had made a decision that felt heavier than her age. She was just 19, but she packed one small bag, took her father's photograph, and walked out of the house without a word. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than noise, and Clara's silence that morning was louder than any argument. Her mother did not stop her. Maybe she thought she would return after a few hours, hungry and defeated. But Clara had already decided if life wanted to be hard, she would become harder. The first night outside was not poetic. It was cold, uncomfortable, and very real. She slept on a wooden bench behind a row of shops, the kind of place where mosquitoes hold meetings and decide who to frustrate next. She wrapped her bag around her like a shield and closed her eyes, but sleep did not come easily. Every sound felt like danger. Every movement made her alert. This was not the life she had planned, but it was the life she had been given. The next few days were a test of both pride and survival. She reached out to relatives who suddenly became very busy. Friends who once called her bestie now replied with messages that sounded like polite rejection letters. One even told her, "You are strong, you will be fine," which is usually what people say when they have already decided not to help you. She learned quickly. People love your story when it is successful, but they disappear when it is still struggling. And hunger has a way of teaching lessons that school never covers. She took any job she could find, cleaning, assisting, running errands, anything that brought in a little money. She was insulted, underpaid, and sometimes ignored, but she did not stop. Somewhere in those quiet, painful nights, something changed inside her. It was not anger alone, it was a sharp and unbreakable determination. She stopped expecting kindness from people and started building strength within herself. Every rejection added another layer to her strength, and every disappointment shaped her focus. She began to understand something important. No one was coming to save her. And strangely, that realization did not weaken her. It made her stronger. If no one was coming, then she would become her own rescue. After months of struggle, she found work in a small office as a cleaner. It was not glamorous, but it was stable. She watched people in suits move around with purpose, typing on computers, discussing ideas, and earning respect. Instead of envying them, she studied them. During her breaks, she would read anything she could find. Old documents, discarded notes, even newspapers left behind. One evening, her boss noticed her reading and asked a simple question. "Why are you here?" She bent her head down and answered honestly. Something about her story must have struck a chord, because for the first time in a long while, someone gave her a chance instead of advice. He asked her to follow him to his office, and after what felt like an endless question and answer session, he asked the staff member to teach her everything she needed to know as a personal assistant. Just like that, she was promoted to an assistant role, and that small opportunity became the door she had been knocking on for years. She did not waste her chance. She worked harder than everyone else, learned faster, and refused to be average. She saved again, this time not in a metal tin, but in a bank account that no one could casually empty with emotional excuses. She enrolled in part-time studies, balancing work and school like someone who had no backup plan, because she didn't. Years passed, and she transformed into someone her younger self would barely recognize. She was confident, independent, and successful. Not because life became easier, but because she became stronger. The girl who once slept on a bench now signed documents in offices with air conditioning so cold it felt like punishment. Life had not apologized, but it had finally respected her effort. One day, she stood in front of her childhood home again. Nothing had changed, and yet everything had changed on her end. The walls looked smaller, the paint more faded, and the memories felt heavier. She knocked, and when her mother opened the door, time seemed to pause. Her mother looked older, weaker, and perhaps, for the first time, uncertain. There was no dramatic confrontation. She simply stepped inside, looked around, and then faced the woman who had once dismissed her pain. "I came to say goodbye," she said calmly. "I heard you aren't feeling well. Take this," she added, handing over an envelope. "This will help with your medical bills. But please, tell that man not to call me again." She was there to release herself from the past that had once held her down. Her mother tried to speak, but words failed her. Regret is a heavy language, and not everyone knows how to speak it. Clara did not wait for apologies that might never come. She had already healed in ways her mother could not understand. Holding her father's photograph one last time in that house, she whispered softly, as if he could hear her, "I made it, Dad." As she walked away, she felt peace. She had lost everything once, but she had rebuilt herself into something stronger, something unbreakable. Her story, which was once about betrayal, was now about survival, growth, and success. And in the end, she had learned never to depend completely on anyone, because even those closest to you can fail you. So build yourself strong enough that no betrayal can destroy your passion or your future. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment your thoughts, and share for more interesting stories.